All right, so we're back again. This is one of the last sessions of the conference. Hoping we can round it out with some fun here. I'm Michael Coburn. I've been doing a lot of PMM talks so far, and I'm really glad that I could be joined on stage with Francisco Bordenave. We're both on the consulting team at Percona, and we're going to talk to you about some next level opportunities you can do within PMM. I've been at Percona just going on 10 years. I've got about 15 or so years experience in the Mysql database space. I'm a Canadian, but I live in Mexico, and I like to bring my culture with me. So I play a lot of hockey, even so it is in Mexico. And I'm a dad, and I just love spending time with my kids. And this is a photo. We had done a climb here in Texas the day before the conference started, and it was a lot of fun. I love getting outside, and hopefully, later I think this week we're going to have some more activities. Tomorrow there's a walk for some people if you're still around town. And then I know that there's a Spartan race happening on the weekend. So if you're a fitness buff or interested in that, let me know, and I could probably put you in touch with somebody. You can have a good weekend that way. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Francisco, and he's going to take it from here. Francisco.
Thank you, Michael. Hello, everyone. Welcome. So a little introduction. I'm Francisco Bordenave. I'm from Argentina. Been working over for 15 years, actually more, with MySQL and some other database experience. I'm a microbrewer. It's not that in my time I make beer, but all the time. Working with Percona for almost 9 years now. So it's been a long road. Colleague here. Okay, a little agenda. We will be talking not about PMM as already, but this is a little bit a more advanced talk about what you can do with PMM in the advanced mode, I would say. We're going to cover a few topics about how to extend capabilities. So, first of all, for those who are not entirely familiar, what is PMM? It's we call it the Percona solution for as free open source database troubleshooting and performance optimization. Basically, we build a tool for monitoring databases in the open source world, like MySQL, MongoDB, and Postgres. But we also support Proxy SQL, Aurora in all flavors, Azure, Google Cloud. And the good thing is that this is not software as a service. It's just something that can run wherever you want. Your own environment, your secure network, or whatever, and then you can whatever you want to monitor. And everything is open source, so you gather the code, read the code, collaborate with us. Everybody's welcome here. Okay, first item that we will cover, text file collector. This is a feature that we normally use to graph some statistics that are not present in the default metrics or the node export. It can be anything you want to monitor. And by anything, I mean let your imagination work. Whatever you want to cover, as long as you put it into a .prom type of file. Of course, there are some to create the files. It can be graphed after that. And by default, this type of exporters has 3 types of resolutions that you can pretty much configure, but basically low, high, and mid resolution for words to define. This is pretty much how a script for text exporter collector should be. Given that this will work at OS level, it will be required to be on a cron job. Cron job can be executed as much as you need. This is a very small example of how many users I have logged into my system. That is not something query on a database or something, so you need to actually do something. Another example we got from this is, okay, I want to know how many people try to authenticate on my system. As you may see, we are just using a grep command. It's present in every Linux operation system. Gather authentication and just doing some magic with sed to put them into a file. And then PMM will read the file and do fix from there. Again, for text collector, information into a .prompt file. That's pretty much what we need. Second thing that we will cover, MySQL custom queries. So out of the box, you have plenty of statistics and metrics and graphics, and we will show you some. But some of them may be missing, or maybe you want to do some custom for you, customization of a graphic or something that you want to graph based on your workload, or information you want to actually see. Again, this low resolution by default. In this case, it uses YAML type of files, which we will go through them, but it works in a very similar than the text collector. The only difference here is that you don't need to have a cron job entry. You create the file, and PMM will consume the file and start. So, a small example here. In the InnoDB indexes cache. As you may notice here, the important part, or the most important part, is the query. This is the custom query. It's involved scheme, I don't remember. And then you put the format or the structure that the file will explain and can understand this is going to. And finally, based on this metric, we will have a graphic like that. Pure and simple. As said, you can do graphics on this. Much the concept is similar to the collector. The next one is pretty much the same, but for Postgres. So we need to put a YAML file in a specific location for Postgres, and again, we have mid, low, and high resolution. Postgres, so the query is wrong. Apologize if this is the case. It's just an example we grabbed from there. But basically, the concept works pretty much in the same way. We got a query that we put into a YAML file, and then we have some tags to describe what we're collecting. Then we need to instruct, as you may, then here. In the low resolution, because we want to have seconds resolution index, okay? And after that, again, YAML file, PMM will know about that because we will show some examples of this, and that's it. You have a graphic, or several of them. This was a little bit more complex, but the concept is pretty much the same. Moving forward, I'm gonna hand over the presentation to Michael. He will show how to deploy dashboard from Grafana. Michael?
Thank you, Francisco. So the reason, where did we come up with these ideas here? These are some features that have been part of PMM for quite some time. But what we've noticed in conversations with our customers, people just haven't leveraged these tools that much. So we're trying to point that we can show you that, there's this untapped opportunity within the product. One of the great things about using open source is that there's likely somebody else who might have already had this some sort of similar solution. And that goes with these dashboards. The dashboards themselves are just JSON strings. So you can go to grafana.com and pull in any given dashboard that you want based on what the community has already put out there. So what we're going to use right here, we're going to actually put a dashboard into PMM that leverages the data, though, of your queries. So again, both Francisco and I are on the MySQL side. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on with this example here. The dashboard itself was written by Peter Zaitsev. He wrote it 2 years ago. And it uses the RED method, which is a paradigm or a way of looking at throughput and errors within your service. So what we're going to do here, you need to locate it first on the Grafana website. There's the search. I've already skipped over the search, but you've got your dashboard. I have the 5-digit number here. You just need to copy the ID. You're going to see the option for an import. And I should be able to paste it here. And when I load it, I've already pulled it in. I'll give it another name. And I think the UID is going to be fine. In some cases, the dashboards need to have different data sources assigned to them. And once I've got those selected, this should just import. And now I've got a dashboard that wasn't there before. And because I filled it in about the backends, in the case of ClickHouse, metrics, I'm just trying to change the ratio here. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Accesses not the metric series in Victoria Metrics, but ClickHouse themselves. So because ClickHouse is a columnar store database, query response time is enormously fast for range queries, for selects. And so what we're doing here, we've got 3 different ways of looking at the data set. How many queries overall has ClickHouse been tracking in terms of what your database service has been pushing for throughput? How many errors overall? And what's the latency? What I really like about these types of metrics, you can't quite get them directly from the database themselves. Thinking about the query latency right now. There is now in MySQL 8 a histogram, event summary histogram table that you can query against. But this one is showing you all of the different types of queries that are running them and giving you an overall average of what that latency looks like. And when I look at some of these graphs here, particularly again latency, I like to see what the change is. The raw value of that latency number matter. Maybe it's 1 millisecond or 100 seconds. But what's interesting out of this is as the work changes, maybe throughout a day, or this month, decide and you can offer maybe a development team or 2 others that are saying, well, if the site's slow today, seeing the average latency go up and down is going to be very that fact or not. If they suspect it, you can prove it with some numbers here. Okay, so this dashboard, I think, almost be making it part of the default deployment. I think there's no additional resources needed. But I really like using this as an example to display the richness of that query data that really doesn't get tapped anywhere else. Okay, so we've deployed a dashboard here. Let's see. Get back to this slideshow. Oh, I've got the screens in case the demo hadn't worked. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about, that showed quickly you can pull in a dashboard. Basically, you just paste a link or paste an integer value in, click go, and away, and you're up and running. We're going to take this to the next level. We have this ability within within PMM to connect to several different types of services very easily. I think of them as like first-class support. So those are MySQL, Mongo, Postgres. These are places where we've already built in a lot of command line interface and also some dashboards that already exist and the exporter. So PMM works great with MySQL because we put all of this effort in making sure that the product works well for that technology. Well, what if you say, well, Michael, I might run Cassandra or I might run Redis? Well, the Prometheus and the whole ecosystem around this monitoring platform that we use is that there's an exporter out there for virtually any of those technologies. And the beauty of that is with PMM, you don't need to have first-class support. You can connect what we call external exporters. You can run this exporter against your database. I'm going to use a system called exporter, and we're going to launch it, and it's going to get what processes and what kind of resources are being consumed on a Linux host, and we'll be able to show that inside PMM. Okay, so it's really straightforward to get this thing working. Let's say you've got Cassandra or you want to run another exporter. You'll be able to download them. There's definitely going to be an RPM or a deb for exporter you want to work with. And then you need to run a command line where we need to tell PMM that, hey, there's an exporter running over here on a certain port and start doing it. And this is going to be a live demo. And the last one is you want to pull in a dashboard. Either build that from scratch or maybe, like I said, we've already got one built for Process Exporter. So we're going to see how to leverage that. So let's go to here. Oops, wrong one. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to check to see the state of the Process Exporter. Okay, so I've got Process Exporter running on this one. Let me run it on. Oh, wait, no, I'm misreading that. This is the node. There's the MySQL D exporter. And then which one's here? This is also node. Okay, so let me take the admin command here. Oops. There we go. Font size is really mixing me up here. Okay. And let's just double check if I have the process exporter running here. I think I have it as a supervisor. So system control, status, process exporter. Okay, so this one's running. So if I do a PMM admin list, this will show us all of the running services connected to. This happens to be a server, so I've already got MySQL deconfigured, and in this case, it's using the performance schema for accessing its different for accessing the queries. In this case, I've already added the external exporter. Let me see if I can. You can hold that one. So PMM admin remove external, and the service name was Percona server 800 processes. Okay, so let's add it. Okay, now we've added another service back to it, and I've already pulled in a dashboard, but I'll just show where we can also get it. We published a blog post on how to explain to actually get the whole system up and running. I don't have the link open. Oops. Oh, here it is. So there was already one iteration of the development of this dashboard. Peter Zaitsev, again, I guess he had a really productive week when he was working with building that red dashboard. And then he also did the process one. He based it on somebody else's existing work in terms of the dashboard development side. So this is now this is a version that will just automatically work with PMM. As soon as you import it, the data sources will connect very cleanly. And let's go through that right now. So grab that ID value, go back to PMM, right here, and we'll do import again. Oops. Okay, I'll just save this because I had neglected to save it the first time around. Now we'll do the import. Oh, it didn't collect it, set it for me automatically. There we go. Okay. And now if everything's working here, I should be able to get some metrics because I've had these running already for a few minutes. Let me check. Process. Let's check this one. Okay. And so what we've been able to do here, we were able to use another open source exporter, start it up. So I ran it. It's running in a systemd, so it's going to have itself able to auto restart when the system gets rebooted. And it also has the external exporter command ran against it to tell PMM, on a certain port, I want you to go scrape some data. Now the data about what's happening in terms of processes has been submitted as a set of metric series into Prometheus, or into Victoria Metrics, excuse me. And then based on this, we can then take this dashboard and it automatically picks up the names of all of those metric series and displays it for us. So the premise here is, as you saw, within a few minutes, you can pull in virtually any other type of service that you want to monitor and make it part of PMM. And the big value add there is it saves you from having to go to a lot of different types of different URLs if you want to be able to access information about your environment, even for cases where it's not native, it's not a first-class technology supported by PMM. Okay. Okay. Another question that I get a lot is around customization of dashboards. Customers look at this, users will look at this and say, well, I want to make a modification. I like this graph here, but I want to change the color or change the stacking, like that. That's completely supported by PMM. What we want to caution our users is that you don't correctly. Okay. What's more important, well, let me say it a different way. If you modify those dashboards, you're able to save. But what we do is when we do upgrades, we don't check to see if you've modified it. So we're going to overwrite it. So this is a very straightforward feature or option for you. What you want to do, if you want to modify a system dashboard, you want to go into this and choose make it editable. In this case, it already is set to editable here. And you want to save that dashboard. Click the wrong one. Save as. You want to give it a separate name and work with that as your customized version of the dashboard. Okay. Otherwise, overwritten? We get this question all the time on the forums. So it's really important that you go ahead and make a copy of it before you do anything else. Next feature I want to talk about is around this feature called integrated alerting. The tool PMM is designed to be initially designed as a data tool, and I think it excels at that. It gets the data, your database service, your queries, and displays them for you. And now with integrated alerting, what it means is that we can now respond a little bit better to when thresholds get exceeded, when they get crossed. And this is classic, I want to receive a page in the middle of the night to tell me if my server's down. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the actual setup of those rules. I've already got some alerts firing, and I want to show that how we can actually by either Slack or PagerDuty or what have you. So let me go back to the home dashboard. Okay. And it shows up here on the left-hand side under the bell. It's called integrated alerting. We're going to start on the right-hand side. Oops, where is it? There we go. So the very first thing you need to do to set up alerting, you need to give it a destination. You have to give it a route or a receiver. We support 3 different options right now. You can get email, PagerDuty, and Slack. Well, I should say 4. And the webhook is a generic method of receiving some feedback to you. Where the webhook with some customers is with maybe Microsoft Teams and some other places that can accept a webhook. So in our case, you'll select the webhook. I think that'll be our easiest one to do today. And we'll say webhook. Give it a name. And a friend of mine gave me this this link over here that you can do some webhook posting. So I think, let's start a new one. Okay. Which one is it? No, this is the actual webhook value that's already been received. I don't think this is the right destination endpoint either. Okay. In this case, we shouldn't have any username or any authentication. That goes in. And we will set add it. Okay. It's straightforward to add the webhook. All you need is that URL. If you're going to use Slack, you need to talk to your Slack administrator to get that path. But it's very straightforward, as you can see, to set up these different channels. And then once you've got a channel defined, you need to assign alerts to then be routed to those specific destination endpoints. That's where you go into alert rules. And what I'll do here is I'll add one related to MySQL. You need to pick the template that you want it to work against. What we've provided in integrated are some basic ways that we are paying attention to how databases are operating. In the sense that I want to know if the database server crashes. I want to know what the states maybe of my replication IO thread versus SQL thread. And whether it's been restarted. Is the runtime, the uptime of it very short? That tells me that, great, it came back up, but I certainly want to know when I have restarts in my MySQL environment. So we're going to do an easy one here. We're just going to pick MySQL down. We're going to give it a string, A, B, C. We'll leave it with a critical level. If you wanted to filter, if your environment is somewhat larger than maybe a handful of servers, you can pick the regex different host name, or there's some label used. For example, if you've configured PMM with something like the environment, you're making sure that you're saying, I want to alert on MySQL down only in production. You can also filter against that. Environment equals prod or environment. You assign it to a webhook destination, and then you add it. And now I've duplicated them. They're the same alert, but I've created them at when MySQL. The last place to spend most of your time will be on the alerts tab here. This is going to show you if you have any active alerts running in your environment. In our case, we'll get the web. So this tool is designed to keep posting messages, sending webhooks on a frequent basis until you go ahead and acknowledge that you're going to do something about the error condition that's ongoing. Okay. The other way that these will go away clearly is if MySQL back up, then the server will detect that MySQL is back online and the alert will clear itself. Okay. So what we're doing here is we've got the basics, or the beginnings of a robust alerting platform that you can use within PMM. Okay. All right, another feature I want to show is related to, there it is. So this is called advisors. These were mentioned as part of the Percona platform when we were at the keynotes. Advisors are intended to be sort of on the vein of alerts, but they're also based on some maybe best practices that Percona wants to share with you. And we've noticed maybe you're not running the most recent version, for example. The first iteration of this was called the security threat tool, and it was focused really on, do you have complex passwords or something to that effect? We've renamed it, and I think advisors is probably a better fit. Depending, this is where Percona is starting to tier a little bit from a commercial relationship versus a free user. You heard us talk about this during the keynotes as well. So what happens is there's actually 3 tiers. The first tier is what we call anonymous, meaning just a pure community user with no linkage to Percona and no commercial relationship. You're going to get around a dozen or so advisors. Those advisors are going to be on the order of, are you running the latest version? Are there any existing CVEs out there against your particular version that you're running in production? So they're intended to be a high level, hey, there's a major problem here that you probably want to be aware of. Then there's, I'm not clear on the names of the next one. I think it's subscriber. And then the middle tier, I'm not exactly sure. I'll show what I'm getting at. What you can do with PMM is then you link it to the Percona portal, and then that's how the PMM server figures out if you have what we call entitlements. If you have bought anything from Percona, that's how we know you have a commercial relationship. And when that happens, then it downloads a whole host of other alerts, advisors that are going to run. Look at it. Let's look at the differences here. We have a specific button for it here on the left-hand side called advisor checks. Okay. Let's look at all the checks that are available right now. I've already connected this instance to so I've got quite a long list. This technologies that Percona is supporting. That's MySQL, MongoDB, and PostgreSQL. And you can see that we're going from like I had mentioned earlier, version differences, what level of logging, depending on some MySQL ones in here. We've got around how secure is the password, or do you have complexity MySQL users when they get created, that sort of thing. So the advisors are, I think, a really decent tool for you to be able to understand if you need to make any problems. There's 2 different places you can go for that. Number 1, you go into these failed checks. And this gives you a list, and this is where you'll probably take the most action from it. You'll come in here maybe at a host at a time and say, well, there's some work for me to do. Either you have a relationship with Percona and you just want to tell us, hey, I got the warnings, I address them, and we'll help you with that through a support engagement, through Francisco and I as consultants. A lot of these are still, there's action directly. And the other place you'll see this is on the home dashboard. On the right-hand side, you're going to see the summation of all of the types of alerts that are failing within your environment. So in our case, this is only a 2-server cluster, but maybe you have 20 or 200 servers. So obviously your counts are going to be different, but it gives you a handle of how well are you actually adhering to what Percona identifies as best practices. Okay. And the last puzzle I want to point out here is how do you actually get from itself more than just PMM. It's designed to kind of build a tighter relationship again between yourselves as customers to Percona. Okay, it's intended to be subscriptions, and we can make sure that the people within your environment are allowed to talk with us, to open tickets, etc. It's really our back and forth communication channel between the organizations. I think it's this last tab. No, let me open it new. So one of the things that's really easy to do is to go ahead and create an account in here. If you already have a relationship with us, it'll be created for you. You either want to do a password reset, or you might have already received the password with the magic link to be able to log in. Once you log into the portal, you're asked to create an organization. If you're not the first one from your org to be added, that organization already exists for you. So it's really straightforward. Generally, you're just going to be logging in going, this is kind of cool. I have a presence already here. I don't have to do any setup work. The big step, I'd say, depending on how many PMM servers you deploy or what your environments look like, you're going to want to register them. And over on the That was on the right-hand side. Where's the add the instance? Looks like it's not sliding over. Let me reduce the font. Where's the button? So what I expected to see, apologies for that. I thought there was a button over here on the right hand. All right. Oops, not that. I'm on the wrong tab. Okay. To access these screens, you want to go into the setup of the server, which is on the settings page, right here under configuration. And if we set it to Percona platform, that's right, my bad. I've already added the server to it, so to click it. So let's disconnect it and start from scratch. I've never tried to disconnect it before. Oh, live demos. So that's unfortunate. So what I was hoping I could show, a couple clicks in here. You get the URL for your PMM server instance. You click a button that says get an access token. It'll fetch that for you from the platform, and you paste that in. And that's a way of passing a secret, so that we can then securely link your PMM server to the platform. And then after that, within a minute or two, those new advisors get downloaded, and then it shows up also in the platform screen that there's another PMM instance, your PMM instance. So you can see a few other people while we've been here at the conference have been adding it, and there it is. Thank you, Francisco. This is the one that I've already added with the URL back to your PMM server. And so again, the platform really applies commercial relationship with Percona. You're going to hear a lot more about the platform as your relationship with us develops, and let me get back to it. It really does represent Percona's method of being able to be a little more present in front of you and helping you understand what tickets you have open and other criteria. Okay. Okay, and that about wraps it up. We want to mention that we are still hiring. We're looking to have any qualified database administrators join our team, whether you like Mongo, Postgres, MySQL. We're here to talk. Love to speak with you after this chat. And I really want to say thanks. Appreciate you coming to our conversation today about PMM. Thank you. See, we have some extra time still. We could go through some additional demos or any feedback on the product, anything you might want to comment about PMM as you've used it? Maybe anything new you've seen today that you didn't know about before, you thought, oh wow, I have an angle on that, maybe I can leverage that? Yeah, from my side, what I find is really untapped is the MySQL, the custom queries there. One of the things I see some customers do, you know your data set better than we do. Right? We can't provide for the fact of, what is the structure of your database? Some customers, for example, want to know maybe how many users are logged in. Well, you know the format of your schema, so you could write a select statement that counts the users, maybe in their various logged in states, or a number of users, or some sort of select you can write against your own data set. And now you can start plotting it. So you can kind of have some metadata about your application, get displayed in a metric series, and then shown on a graph within PMM. Yeah.
I'm wondering how heavy is it to have those Grafana new graphs? What's the cost?
Well, the cost is going to be basically the efficiency of how well you've written the query. Well, there's indexes in place.
Some queries can be really heavy in the sense of you are accessing metadata on the database. Sometimes that requires some extra locking. So the right answer for you is it depends. From Grafana perspective, let's say that we cover the query is super efficient, it runs super fast. I think that yesterday I've been talking with the guys, it's like a gig per instance per month, it's like that, something like that. So the impact in the things like storage or processing that is not that big. Shouldn't be, you shouldn't see the PMM server suffering from this, which take you back to to what we just said. You need to make sure that the query is running well. That will be, and it's more about an impact on the client side than in the server, because most of the graphics that are there, plus the alerting, plus everything, is already optimized. We consume most of the performance schema database, which is, at least in MySQL, and I don't know much about Postgres and Mongo, but it's already optimized, and the database itself is pretty well optimized. So when you go into things like custom queries, you need to make sure that you are not killing the instance per se, like, give me all the table size and blah, blah, blah in a database that has 1,100 tables. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's going to take a long time. So that will be a killer. But it's not something that is actually a PMM problem, but a DBA problem, right?
No, I was actually thinking about Grafana itself.
In Grafana side, no, there is no major impact, no. Not that I'm aware of.
No, me neither. Yeah. Well, what I've seen people do is they end up with, maybe they put too many queries in the same runtime. And so depending on the scraping interval, we've spoken about these 3 different directories, high, medium, and low. Depending on what you're set to, the default is 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and 60 seconds. So you need to make sure, let's say we're working with a 5-second bucket, that whatever queries you put in there, they're going to keep retrying every 5 seconds to run all the files in there, and however many queries. It's going to run those serially. So the sum runtime has to be less than 5 seconds. If you don't do that, we're running queries from seconds ago into second 6, and you're going to have a cascading issue show up. That's something I think we should own a bit more. We're not watching for that runtime. I think we should be killing those queries, but doing something a little deeper so that we don't, inadvertently knock over a server or cause additional locking because we have so many concurrent queries running. So that's one thing that you want to watch out. It's not just a trivial question of, should my queries be fast? They need to be faster than a certain range. Or, play it safe and scrape that, maybe your query, you're worried it won't run longer than 10 seconds. Well, then put it in the 60-second bucket. You should never see a problem. So if it starts taking 20 seconds, 30 seconds, no problem. It won't start stepping on itself.
Or monitoring your database, right? So if you are adding more work, if you are increasing the workload because it's fast, it's fun, let's put some graphics there, and at some point that you are just increasing artificially the database workload, it's okay. It's a matter of a criteria, I would say. I like to say that never underestimate the capacity of people for breaking things, right? So technically, or back into the original question, no, I wouldn't expect to see much overhead of adding custom queries or stuff like that. If you add 1,000 checks, yeah, probably you will get. But if you can handle 1,000 different new graphics, aside what's in PMM already, well, give me your card because we will hire you.